Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How's everyone doing today? Good morning, Patrick and Rusty over on Rumble. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Patrick. Anya on YouTube. Good morning to me. Testing to make sure that was right. Good morning, Stafford. How are you? Hope all is well with you. Good morning, Yogi. Very light today. Very light. Good morning, Tony. So, maybe everybody's taking off turnaround Tuesday or turn down Tuesday. We will see. Good morning, David Atkins. All right, let's get started. We already had Goolsby speaking this morning. Already at Goolsby, but before we talk about that, hello, Charles. Good morning, Balaji. Uh, Goolsby sounding pretty hawkish today that we might not be making a dent in inflation. So we'll see about that. I gotta refresh this. There we go. Redbook numbers still printing very strong. ADP a little higher than the previous week. We got a big Fed speak day. Good morning, Daniel. We got Bostic still. Collins speaking. Waller, Cook, Barkin, Collins again. And then we have the State of the Union tonight. We have the S&P Case Shiller home price also came out. We have the consumer confidence numbers coming out at 10 Eastern, Richmond Fed numbers at 10 Eastern, and Dallas Fed services at 10:30 Eastern. But nothing that's really going to move the markets that much. So far, we have the AMD Meta deal. So with AMD giving warrants to Meta, they'll buy their chips and we're giving them part of the company. It could be interesting. Could be interesting there. Good morning and goodbye, Hernado, and good riddance. You didn't get hammered by Hernado, did you? Holy. I mean, Maryland didn't get really hit that hard. Really hit that hard. So what else? We have software and some of the chips besides Broadcom and Nvidia are up today. Home Depot reporting it was a beat. It was a pretty decent beat. Guidance was but did have a beat. So the last quarter's numbers were pretty good for Home Depot. So that's where we sit there. Mag 7 is mixed groups. Technology and energy leading, followed by industrials. Gold pulling back, basic materials and financial and healthcare all lagging. Fed watch still has the 96% for the pause in 22 days. Fear and greed still in fear mode. Chiller PE dropping below 40 at 39.78. Again, Home Depot was a big one this morning and was a beat. AMC after close for if anybody still trades that. What else? Nothing much. HP. That was sort of interesting there to see if they have any comments, especially on the memory issue going on. Just a bit, but had to leave New York City early. So you had to leave because of Hornado and you went back to Maryland. New routine, try to work out at 5 a.m. Let's hope it helps the day. I used to do really early morning workouts, and I cannot do them anymore. I used to work out at 3:30 a.m. and that was just now at this point I cannot do that anymore. Can't do it. Remember, Nvidia is tomorrow. Can we check out NIO and BMY when? Yeah, just remind me. Good morning, Heinrich. All right. Is the double that we've been looking at invalidated? No, it is not. It would need the close below 68.31 or to trade down through what's the number? 68.1775 to invalidate it. Still in play. We're just in a choppy market. Again, we're shifting into negative gamma mode, so we could see some more some more downward price action. But until we invalidate that little mini double, I can't get overly negative now. We got the declining rotation zone yet. The hooking over 50, no rally has been sustained. Really, my area where I'll start looking for more aggressive shorts is if we start dropping below the 68, 67.85 area, 67.84 area. Other than that, I got to have this choppy upside bias until we invalidate the double, just because you got the probabilities of the double. What's never going to happen? But Nvidia might save today. It's never going to happen. You've accepted it. What have you accepted? Well, we'll see about Nvidia tomorrow. That's, by the way, this was a potential double, but the count took too long before it confirmed. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 bars because this one didn't make a new low. 1, 2, 3, 4. It had not confirmed or triggered. So that was not a little mini valid double. If you see the one I'm talking about right here. Versus the NASDAQ, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars because this did make a new low. And then 1, 2, 3, and it already confirmed on bar 2. So this confirmed and then triggered here. So this was a valid double. Just wanted to point out that distinction. The other one became off the table before it ever was confirmed. This one did not. This one was confirmed. And now it's bounced off the first target area a couple times. So remaining targets on the NASDAQ, if this manages to keep going, 24,926.50, 24,961.75. The invalidation point is, because the raise the stop on this one is 24,755.75. The also, if on a trade through and validation point is 24,726.50. All right. So that's the only, but this is a horribly choppy little mess. So if we continue to rally, those are the targets I'm looking at to the upside. Though that does not mean, look, it approaches the 8 EMA. The rotation zone's still holding. So the other bigger double is still in play, and that's the only way I can get really bullish on the NASDAQ. Other than that, I'm watching on spikes in the rotation zone, watching still for rollover plays. I'll be cautious if we start closing above about 25,165, but we still have the 50 overhead. Oh, the double playing out. We'll see. We'll see. Good morning. Good morning, Anissa. I mean, you do have the probabilities. Not every one of them works. I wish they all did, but that would make sense if something worked all the time. There'd be a flaw there. Because yesterday, I mean, you had the Trump press conference, and the markets did not like that one. So that's where we stand. If the NASDAQ starts really getting momentum below 765 area, then I'm going to start focusing, especially if we retest that and fail against that level. I'm going to be looking for potential shorts down to 24.5 and then potentially all the way down to 24.250. But we have to fail on this first. We have to fail, and we have Nvidia coming out tomorrow, so we'll see. It could remain a little choppy. Nvidia is going to be a big potential mover of this. The Dow breaking down yesterday, closed below the 50. That's the first close below the 50 since it got back above the 50 at the end of November. Now it's holding major support, but I'm starting to look for, again, more rollover plays in the Dow on bounces. The Dow would have to regain 49,720 before I get back into bullish mode, unless I have a strong bullish pattern that triggers, and we do not. So on any bounce, I'm paying attention to the 4-hour rotation zone and these breakdown zones of 49,230 and 49,370. On the Russell, The Russell still holding the 50, spiking just below it and recovering it pretty quickly yesterday. Still looking at this 2613 area. If we start breaking down, I need a retest or momentum to slice through it. Like yesterday, we broke down and we didn't fail on a retest. Was watching this right here to see if we were going to retest and roll over. Did not. We just regained the key level. So there was no retest and rollover yesterday. So that's what I still need, a retest and rollover, or we have to slice through it with momentum. And there is still a potential double in the Russell, a potential double top. Would need a close below 2566.8. The VIXY still staying very elevated. Still staying elevated, not even dropping back down. So, by the way, 10-year against the 75% harmonic, we do have a potential double bottom. Need to wait for this to trigger before anything else, and it is against the daily rotation zone. However, if we do start taking out 4.2, then I'll be looking for that return to possibly 3.98. 4 is going to be a magic number. It's really tough, though, for shorts in here because it's coming into a major resistance. Tight reward to risk. So I'm going to be watching this to see if this potential double triggers or not. Gold. Before that, I got to say good morning to Ted. Gold. We closed above the 62.5, officially shifting the probabilities. Now we're pulling back to test that key 5100 area with the rising rotation zone. So as long as, even if we don't hold 5100, as long as we don't close below the rotation zone, I'm still in bullish bounce mode. And now the secondary reaction have shifted the probabilities for 5325.9 and possibly 5476.4. This does not necessarily mean we'll go to new highs. That's why it's trailing. From my perspective, trailing from the initial buy signal. Then we had a 4-hour, remember, percent B buy in here. So it's trailing on buys. The silver. Key support coming in at 84 right now. On this steep neckline, inverse head and shoulders. First target, nothing's changed. 92.55 roughly. So we'll keep an eye on that one too. Crude, little pullback there. Again, we had the 4-hour double, which is now turned into a mess. So that's off the table. It's getting to some major resistance above 67. 67 is a very key area to watch for. If we get momentum through 67, I'm looking at the 68.50 area. Other than that, any pullback into the rotation zone, unless like something is announced with Iran that, hey, we've got a deal with Iran, then I will be cautious. Other than that, if we're holding the rotation zone, we'll still be looking for buy setups. Dollar index moving on up. We do have a potential double top though. That would be, I'd just start watching that for the bigger potential pullback right there. If that does not trigger, I'm still looking at 98 as the target. And then we got 98.23. 98 and 98.23. Bitcoin breaking down again. Pretty much closing just above the 62.5 yesterday, and now coming back down to retest a very key support level. Remember, in the bigger picture, we've hit the first target nearly, and close enough for me. We bounced and could not even get back to weekly rotation zone, and we still have lower prices. However, we have this 200 on the weekly coming in, very key support area. If that breaks, watch out. If that breaks, watch out. We got the spiders. Slight gap up today. Again, 682 is a very key support area. We break through that. Yesterday's lows 680.22. We take out that 675.88. There's not much support until you get down to 675.88. On the rally side, 686. And then the major resistance 689. 686 and 689. The Qs. Slight gap up today for that gap fill would be a roll over to 601.41. Bumping down my key support level a little lower. We're now looking at 599.25 area. We break down through that. There's a huge support base. Roscoe, you're really snoring, buddy. Next would be about 596.80. IWM. Slight gap up today, but again, I'm watching on the downside 258.65. 258.65. No little short-term bullish pattern, so we'd have to break above 264.60 for me to get bullish again. And my dog's going crazy with the snoring. AMD on their announcement deal. Remember, we do have a potential double bottom in here, by the way. We do have a potential double bottom. Would need a close above 219.65 to trigger, and there's gaps left behind. So we're getting a gap up this morning. There's another mini double bottom right here. A double within a double, which can happen. This rotation wasn't big enough to make it a triple bottom. But that's going to, we're pretty much gapping up to the first and second targets. So that's, unless you were trading at pre-market with the announcement, that's the little ones off the table. What else? What else? What else? What else? What else? I have to go back and find the, where is it? Where are the stocks I was supposed to look at? Oh boy. I can't find them now. Oh, there we NIO. NIO. Can we check on NIO? Sure, we can check on NIO. Just want to see where it caught here. Huh. So for NIO, has to really start for me, it would have to get above 550. Little breakout here, but there's very key resistance over here. You have a gap fill still. Would have to base above 550, and then I'd potentially start looking at the bullish case again. On a pullback, as long as the rotation zone held and the 50 held, if there's, that could be a place for an aggressive long. But in order for me to sustain, it has to get above 550 again. That would be key. And then what else do we have? BMY. BMY against major resistance up here. This is the major resistance area. So, and this is the major rollover zone. So, again, you can keep trying on pullbacks as long. This is a sloppy pattern, but I'd still be in the short-term bullish case unless you lose the rotation zone. But this, you got to remember, I'd be moving up stops, especially if it tests 63, I'd be aggressively moving up stops. And your key thing has got to close to shift our probabilities above 65. Other than that, if you start losing the daily rotation zone, I'd be very patient on the long side and start watching for the bigger pullback. You're welcome, Jake. And thank you for putting it back in, Charles. So yeah, I'd be still trading with the long side unless it loses this 50. And then I'd be cautious. You can see the possible bigger pullback. And then if it loses the 50, let me rephrase that. As long as it does not close below the rotation zone, I'd be still focused on the long side. If it does, you have gaps left behind and the 50, and if you lose the 50, the bullish case for me would be off the table in the short term. And this very strong resistance would have held. So that's where we sit right there. Other than that, that's all. That's all we have. Again, if we invalidate this double, I will not remain in choppy bullish mode, which is a close blow of 68.31, or a trade through 68.17. Then I'll just be in slowly choppy mode and watch for potential failure at resistance. And then I'm watching these major support levels. And if they break, then it's in short mode. What do I think is LEG? That's pretty beat. It is pretty beaten up. I mean, if you have a bullish pattern that triggers, this thing could still fall farther, though. Don't like the setup just yet. Would need now, I don't even know if that qualifies as a double. Don't think it does. But this, I'd need it technically barely does, but I'd need a stronger pattern, possibly closer to 1075. And if that breaks, I'd watch for reconnect at the 200 area. Could be at some point, but I need a pattern. And they're on the weekly basis. Let's see. Maybe it's going to get to an inverse. You need a bigger shoulder over here. Maybe it could get to an inverse, bigger inverse head and shoulders. Could be something to keep an eye on, though. Could be something to keep an eye on. By the way, another one I'm going to be keeping an eye on. For a potential bounce play is IBM. Got smacked yesterday with AI and COBOL, taking away some AI. I forgot who did it, who developed the COBOL AI recoding thing, but this is going to be interesting at some point again. There is no bounce play yet, but especially if we start dropping closer to this 200 area or even 206, I'll be watching for potential bounce bottoming patterns. This is getting overdone to the downside. It's another one I'll be looking at. Again, some of this stuff is getting beat up a little too much, but I'm not standing in front of a falling knife. With that, XLF bounced and failed. Here's your XLS. Did bounce into the rotation zone and failed and took out the key support level. Yes. So on financials, at least on the broad financial sector, it's this could be starting to retrace a lot. It did break support. Yes, it did. It did. And you got the first cross of weekly rotation zone. You've lost a 50-week now. We could start seeing a much bigger correction in the financial sector. That does not mean everything has to correct in that, but overall, the bias of that sector is now breaking support. All right. Thank you, everyone. And I shall talk to you tomorrow. Yes, thank you. Anthropic did. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for putting that in. I could not remember who did it. All right. What else do we have? Imagine if banking is lagging private credit. Yeah, private credit's not looking good. Remember, I'm still looking overall for at least a 20% correction coming up at some point in the next bit. We just don't. If we lose this weekly rotation zone in the S&P, because we don't have key patterns breaking down yet, I'm looking for this rollover top pattern. But that's why hedges would be in place with volatility should we just break it without a strong setup. Other than that, I'm watching this weekly rotation zone, especially in the S&P. We start breaking this support area, this 60 6750 to 6780 support area, I'm looking for the much bigger pullback overall. Keep that in mind. You're welcome, Charles. With that, I shall talk to everyone later. Bye for now.